Hi and welcome to the All About Grecia channel. My name is Kurt and I'm your host. Thank you for tuning in. I'm a happily retired baby boomer and Grecia has been my home for over 5 years. I have my residency as a pensionado or pensioner and I participate in the healthcare system. I've lived in 4 different neighborhoods from high up on the ridges to down south of the city, and I'm here to tell you what I've learned about living in Grecia, Costa Rica. This is volume 7 in my series, and today I'm going to talk about some history of the southern zone. In my last video, we talked about Grecia versus the beach. I had all sorts of good history about Osa left over, so let's learn more. All about Grecia, the southern zone. And now a little history, which I find fascinating.
Boruca. Bribri. Cabekar. Nave.
Long before Spanish arrival, the indigenous people thrived living in the southern zone, living off the land through agriculture, fishing, and craftsmanship. The Boruca, in particular, became known for their resistance against the Spanish. This legacy is celebrated today in the
Danza de los Diablitos Festival.
Unlike the Central Valley, the rugged terrain and dense rainforests of the southern zone discouraged large-scale Spanish settlement. While some indigenous groups suffered from European diseases and displacement, the region remained largely untouched. By the 19th century, only few small farming settlements had formed, and the area remained isolated from colonial developments. Today, the southern zone and the Osa Peninsula are world famous for their conservancy and national parks, but it almost wasn't to be. The Osa Peninsula came very close to being a desolated wasteland. The United Fruit Company, UFC, today known as Chiquita Brands International, began operations in Golfito in 1938, turning the remote coastal town into a major banana export hub. UFC operated like state within state, controlling nearly every aspect of life for its workers. Employees were provided with housing, medical care, schools, and even recreational facilities, creating Company Town where workers were cared for from cradle to grave. Wages were low, but the company ensured stable, structured existence so long as workers remained loyal and obedient. However, this control came at cost. UFC dictated daily life, suppressing labor movements and maintaining strict social hierarchies. When banana prices fell and labor disputes grew, the company pulled out in the 1980s, leaving Golfito in economic ruin. In the years since, efforts have been made to repurpose the town's old UFC infrastructure. The former company buildings and port facilities have been transformed into duty-free shopping zone, ecotourism lodges, and marinas, aiming to revive Golfito's economy through tourism and commerce. While the UFC era is long gone, its effects can still be felt today in the town's development. Early cattle ranching on the Osa Peninsula began in the mid-20th century, particularly in the 1940s and 50s, as settlers cleared vast areas of primary rainforest to create grazing land. This deforestation led to significant habitat loss for countless species, disrupting local ecosystems and contributing to soil erosion and declining water quality as sediment washed into rivers and streams. Overgrazing further degraded the land, compacting soil and reducing its ability to support plant life. The Osa Peninsula in the mid-20th century was much like the lawless American Old West, isolated and tamed, one of the most rugged and remote places in the country, and ruled by those with the will to survive. A group of prisoners was dropped there to die and turned to gold mining to survive. Some were political prisoners, others common criminals. Instead of dying in the jungle, they started searching for gold in the rivers, and they eventually found it. Just as gold-rush towns in the West attracted outlaws, drifters, and opportunists, Osa became refuge for ex-prisoners, fugitives, and fortune-seekers. They built small, rough settlements and mined the land, often illegally. Gold brought wealth, but also chaos. There were no real laws, just survival. Fights broke out, people disappeared, and the jungle reclaimed those who couldn't handle it. In the 1970s, the Aluminum Company of America, Alcoa, sought to establish a large bauxite mining operation in Costa Rica, particularly in the southern region near the Osa Peninsula. The plan involved extracting bauxite used to produce aluminum and exporting it for processing. However, the project faced strong opposition from environmentalist students and labor groups who feared deforestation, pollution, and loss of local livelihoods. Protests erupted across the country, leading to nationwide demonstrations and political pressure. In 1975, after intense public resistance, the Costa Rican government ultimately rejected Alcoa's mining concession, marking one of the country's earliest major environmental victories. This movement set the stage for Costa Rica's strong environmental policies and commitment to conservation in the decades that followed. After the defeat of Alcoa and the withdrawal of UFC, Costa Rica shifted its focus towards conservation and reclaiming its national resources. The southern zone, once dominated by foreign corporations, became a key area for ecotourism and biodiversity protection.
Corcovado National Park, 1975.
Was established to protect one of the world's most biologically diverse ecosystems. Later,
Piedras Blancas, 1993.
Was created after conservationists purchased lands previously owned by the United Fruit Company and donated them to the government.
Marino Ballena National Park, 1989.
Was designed to protect marine life, particularly migrating humpback whales. Farmers living in the area were well compensated and relocated, but the miners were allowed to stay. At first, only 6 miners were granted special permission, but word spread, and soon their numbers swelled to over 1,000. Authorities struggled to control the influx, and illegal mining continued for years. In the mid-80s, the government said enough was enough and forced the miners out, not with guns but with legal maneuvering. Today, while some mining still happens in secret, the wild, lawless days of Osa's gold rush are long gone. The story of the Osa Peninsula is a testament to the power of conservation and community. What was once a land on the brink of destruction has been transformed into a thriving paradise where wildlife flourishes, forests regenerate, and people live in harmony with nature. Thanks to the dedication of conservationists, local communities, and sustainable initiatives, the Osa Peninsula now stands as a beacon of hope for the world. This transformation proves that when we protect our planet, we create a future where both nature and humanity can thrive. The journey isn't over. Every effort counts in preserving this incredible place for generations to come. What do you think? If you liked this video, give me a like, and please do subscribe. If you have comments or questions or an idea for a topic, let me know down below. There's so much to learn when you want to know. All about Grecia. Gracias. See you next time. Ciao.